is a lot going on. And so my hope is that you're able to gather some really good information around some of the projects you might drive by, maybe some of your students are going to be experiencing or just in the community, kind of wanting to know a little bit more. But we're going to start off with Symmes. And just as a reminder, our Symmes project was both a renovation and an addition. At Symmes Elementary, we added on a wing for our early childhood wing, which we were able to dedicate to the Anne Van Kirk early childhood wing earlier this year. Also did an open house to allow our community through that project, an addition of a stage and some additional classrooms to be able to bring some preschool rooms over. So kind of give you a little context of what was happening over there, but I'm actually going to pass it off to Allison. And so she can give you some updates of some of the construction.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison McKenzie, an architect with SHP. I'll be speaking to you just a little bit about Symmes. The exciting thing about Symmes is that we're almost wrapped up with the scope. So if we go to the next slide, we'll take a look at the floor plan for Symmes. As was mentioned, we had an addition to the building, which is at the very bottom of your screen where it's labeled pre-K kindergarten. So that's the new wing that we added on and was recently dedicated. We also added on a new kitchen right above that in the gray, and that is up and running. Most recent work includes some classroom wing renovations and some media center renovations, which we'll take a look at on the next slides. So if we want to go ahead on to classroom, this is a typical renovated classroom wing, so it looks a little different than it used to. We have used color throughout the building as a wayfinding tool, so you'll notice that this is the green wing. So this is really helpful for the younger kids to really identify where they are in the building and where they need to go. So nice, fresh, clean classrooms that are equivalent to other buildings in your district. Go on to the next slide, which is going to show the media center renovation. So we have kind of a hexagon theme going through the media center, just a nice shape to, again, orient you to where you are in the building. Another way that we're using, colors and shapes as wayfinding. So we've got the yellow that's prominent here in the media center. For those of you who are familiar with the Symmes Media Center, we did fill in the recessed area in the middle of the space. So that has provided a lot more flexibility to create different areas and zones of activity, which you can see in the photo on the upper left-hand side of your screen. We've got some tables for activities. You've got some story time kind of riser furniture in the background, and just really trying to bring in some fun color and lighting through the space to just, again, refresh it and again, make it more flexible. If we move on, we'll see the most recently completed aspect of Symmes, which is that stage that we've added onto the gymnasium. So I think we're still putting some finishing touches on it, but as you can see, we had a recent event there. So it is now functional and a great addition to the school that did not previously exist. We do just have a little more scope to finish in Symmes, which will be primarily done this summer when the building is unoccupied. That includes refinishing the gym floor, some painting of the existing gym, some new doors throughout the building, and just, again, some finishing touches on some of the mostly completed spaces.
Thanks, Allison, for that. And thank you to everybody that was able to stop by our open house that we had. We were blown away by the turnout. We were able to celebrate the Symmes players and their stage. And if I'm not mistaken, correct me, it was their 25th. Is that right, Mr. Lewis? I want to make sure I get that right. 25th anniversary for Symmes players. It was phenomenal to see just everybody walking through the building. So thank you for everybody for that. Moving on to our next project. So E.H. Green Intermediate School. This is our next school that will be coming online. We're looking forward to opening this up to our students for this coming school year. And so I get the pleasure of being able to look out my window and see the construction right over the hill there. And it's impressive. And so I think that as we go through some of these slides, you're going to really kind of immerse yourself in the scope of that project and how much improvement is going to be in the educational learning spaces based on what the experience is now. So Allison, I'll toss this back over to you.
Great. So on our first slide here for green, we've just got a floor plan. This may look familiar to many of you, but one thing to point out is those spaces in yellow, the gyms, those are your existing gyms. So that's kind of becoming the connection point between the existing facility and the new facility. In orange is your existing cafeteria. So that is being converted to a music classroom, and actually some selective demolition has started in that space over spring break. So we're getting a little jump on the summer construction season with that. The rest of the building is coming together. We've got a 2-story academic space, which is shown in the blue tones. And we've got administration and music up front and center at the new entry of the building. And you'll see some of these spaces as we go through the aerial shots that we'll share as well. So these are just kind of the latest and greatest milestones that are being achieved at Green Intermediate. We've got some wall framing that's continuing, mechanical systems, so the heating and air conditioning are being installed. We're starting to get paint and ceilings in some spaces, so that's always a surefire sign that we're getting close to the end of construction when those finishes start happening. And also site work is starting to happen outside of the building as the weather starts to get a little nicer here. So if we go to the first photo slide, you can see some interior framing that's happening. So framing up those new walls. Drywall's being hung in some areas, and then you'll see that the platform in the existing cafeteria has now been demolished. So there's that head start on the demolition work that I was mentioning. On the next slide, we've got some of the larger spaces in the building. So the new media center and cafeteria are really starting to take shape. You can start to see really the volume of these spaces and what they will start to look like as the building kind of comes to completion. On the next slide, we've got those academic spaces, and as they move around the building, you can see on the left, those are some of the areas where they've actually gotten some drywall up, they've done some painting, ceilings are starting to go in, and they'll continue to do that through all of the areas of the academic wing. The next slide. This is the exterior work that I had mentioned, so very much ongoing, and we'll just ramp up even further as the weather gets nicer and nicer. They'll move from paving and they'll start really, you'll see the exterior learning spaces and gathering spaces really start to take shape. Next slide, we will start really looking at these drone photos. So we take drone photos of the building sites every month so we can kind of see the progress from a bird's eye view. You can see in this photo towards the front of the screen, those big volume spaces, your gyms and cafeteria that we're connecting to. And then in the back of the photo with the white roofs, that's the new construction. So the white volume kind of on the left, that is that 2-story academic wing that you saw in the plans. And on the right is where the administration area and other kind of main entry features will be with that sloping gray canopy that you're starting to see take shape. You can see that a little bit better in this view. So we're still pretty high up, but this will be kind of the main entry and approach to the new building with the shield of the canopy over it. And then in this perspective, you can see the 2-story academic space beyond with the white roof. Here's just another view to kind of give you all of the angles. The academic wing is again on the right, coming together, brick, windows, all of that. And on the left, that sloping entry canopy that we saw with the administration areas beyond. Just one final shot as we kind of scroll backwards. Actually, I think we've got 2 left, but this really gives you a perspective of the size of the new building in relationship to the existing building. Of course, once the new building is complete, the final phase of the project will be to remove the existing building aside from the 2 gyms and what's currently the cafeteria to make room for more site features, parking, etc. Final shot. This really starts to show you how the exterior of the 2-story academic wing is coming to creation. In the middle, the box that kind of juts out past the side of the building, that is going to be your primary bus entry for students. So a lot of students will see that first thing in the morning when they arrive at school.
Thank you, Allison. I think it's important to note, and I know we've mentioned this a little bit earlier, but obviously our students will be attending this fall. We're excited to welcome back. But the construction project at Each Green will continue for a few months past that. I believe we're looking at a November completion, and that will be the demolition of the old building. And to Allison's point earlier, the demolition, but also the site development to restore that front property there for green space that we can actively use. I also want to mention too, just a shout out to our neighbors I know it's Stonehenge, Hagawa, and Aldine, who have been absolutely amazing through this process. We recognize that it's a disturbance. There's a lot going on that site, and we appreciate the effort that they have in working with us to maintain positive relationships as this construction project kind of comes to a close. Lastly, just want to throw out May 21st. Mark this on your calendars. This is going to be our Forever Green event. What we want to do is we want to be able to capture the moment before we start demolishing green, so people have an opportunity to kind of relive some of those experiences. And we just want to shout out to our green team, Mr. Tudor, the principal over there, and all that's involved, and just doing a phenomenal job to make sure that we send off our old EH Green School with class and making sure that we're marking that moment. So with that, I'm going to now pass to Charlie Janikin at SHP to talk about the junior high.
Thanks, Brad. Charlie Janigan here. I've given a lot of presentations through the years. I'm an architect leading the charge for SHP, and I'm also a proud Sycamore alum. So here is the floor plan for the junior high. We've shared this in the past, but just a couple of reminders where it's set up with a 2-story academic wing in blue towards the bottom of the screen. Towards the top is the main entry, and green is the admin. And then there's some shared spaces, which are art, music, and the theater in purple. And then all the way to the left is the gymnasiums and locker room spaces. That stacks above all of this. This is the lower level. And again, the color designation is the same that's above. So there's nice alignment. The junior high is a little bit behind the green as far as schedule, but it's still on schedule. It just has a longer schedule just because it's a bigger building. Brick and block is ongoing. The structural work is really happening just in the theater. We needed to demolish the current transportation facility to achieve that. You'll see some more metal framing going on, windows are going in, and we just have a few more concrete slabs to pour, and then that effort will be complete. So jumping into the photos, as I said, it's a little bit behind green schedule-wise because it has a year longer, so it's a little more gray and brown colors. Not much finished work occurring yet, but you can see the scaffolding for building up the gymnasium walls. We've got the layout for the theater. You can see roofing is being stockpiled out there in preparation to cover that up once it's enclosed. Again, some more just infrastructure type photos of getting walls up, plumbing chases, and getting kind of the things that are either underground or behind the scenes in place before it gets covered up with finishes. This is a nice photo here of the new theater. The theater is going to be a really exciting space. I was excited to be out here and see this and just see the scale of the stage compared to the workers that are in there in that photo. And then this next photo here to the right is the gymnasium. This faces south, and there'll be translucent panels, so the sun will shine, but it won't be shining in people's faces. It'll be diminished a little bit by the windows, but again, a really nice looking gymnasium is forming. This is looking kind of towards the office in the main entry. These round columns here will be exposed, and that's why they're round rather than an I-beam shape. And then the office will be to the right. Looking down here is looking at the cafeteria. That'll be a 2-story volume once visitors enter into the building. The academic spaces, again, a lot of coordination of things in the walls as far as electric and technology and plumbing. And the walls are now getting buttoned up with drywall, and finishing is occurring. So moving on to some of the drone photos. This is looking south. And as you can see, the theater is to the right. Some of the initial work is happening. We didn't mute it. There we go. And then to the left is the main shared spaces. And then you can see the job where the classrooms have the brick around them. This is moving a little bit towards the east. You can see, again, the two-story academic wing has red brick wrapping around it. Windows are being installed. This is a little bit of an aerial shot. The job is working closer to Ronald Reagan Highway, moving north towards Cooper. So some of that work towards the south is more finished as it moves towards the north. This is a little bit lower shot, again, seeing how we are also operating a 7-8 building while building this new building. So this is a tough feat, but we're maintaining safety protocols, and everything is moving as far as getting the kids in and out in a safe manner, and also being able to manage all the construction activities. This is now moving towards the west. You can see roofers are roofing the gymnasiums. They will move to the north. There's installations being ready to be installed there as the work progresses. Brad,
thanks for that, Charlie.
Comments on
thanks for that, Charlie. Kind of just wanted to add a few things here. Number one, as Charlie mentioned, this is our tightest site. And what I mean by that is we have a lot going on a very compact area. So one of the keys that we've talked about over and over again, if you ever have an opportunity to listen to board meetings, we've talked about the relocation of our transportation facility. We were not able to actually start on that theater kind of addition until we were able to relocate that space. Plus, getting the buses off that property kind of allowed some better site circulation as we started navigating the construction entrance, but also, as Charlie mentioned, operating that junior high site. So we're thrilled to death to have announced that we're able to find a temporary location for our buses, and we're actively pursuing a permanent location as well. More to come with that. But as we look at this site, it is exciting to see that new building come up, but we also remain optimistic, cautiously optimistic as we move forward with the process of demolition of what is a very old building as well. And so a lot going on that site. A shout out to our teachers, our staff, and our community who have to deal with a lot of movement on that site on a daily basis. It'll be worth it in the end. So thank you for that. And Charlie, I'll send it back to you for the high school update. Okay. So moving on to the renovations at Sycamore High School. We'll start off with a floor plan. Again, majority of these spaces are like for like as far as the functionality. Gymnasiums are going to remain gymnasiums. Cafeteria is going to remain. The classrooms are getting shuffled a little bit, but for the most part, all academic will remain academic. We've just moved the departments around slightly and then added some more features throughout. A lot of this work has been complete for a while, and the kids are almost through 1 year of using a lot of these spaces. I know the music room spaces have been complete, and so it's exciting to see us get through the phases. So some of the photos you'll see has a lot of finish work as far as painting and flooring and some of the other interior finishes. We are doing a lot of extensive planning for this summer. There's going to be a lot of work this summer to relocate the main front door of the high school. When students show up in the fall, it will be on the east side, different than where it is now. And then also the stadium work is starting to occur. So this is looking at some of the finished work as far as flooring and paint. You can see the areas have a refreshed look. The middle photo is looking at the hub, where we've added updated finishes to blend the entire building to look like a new reno throughout. And then to the right is a kind of a flexible breakout area with some new flooring and paint. New furniture will arrive. You can see we are repurposing some of the old, but we have ordered new furniture.
These are some of the other spaces. You can see the stairwells have been updated as far as paint, utilizing some of the existing finishes as far as the brick and the hand railings, but we've given things a refreshed look from the original construction from the 70s. And then to the right, you can see demolition with some of the older floor tile and the structure and some of the ductwork that will remain in place and it'll get tucked back in. This is an area called Area I. We started with Area A, so you can tell we're moving down the alphabet. And again, these are open walls that are opened up or new walls that are going in to create some larger or more flexible learning spaces throughout Sycamore High School. The drone photos are just the initial shots. If you actually drive by Cornell or even 275, you can see the earthwork has started for the stadium. And I believe later in April, we're going to have more information, a dedicated lunch and learn on that scope of work. But we're excited about this starting. There will also be a new entry driveway that'll off of Cornell to get students onto the site at a new point. So there will be 3 curb cuts. There's this little one now, but we'll actually have a driveway that will connect to the expanded student parking. So again, a lot of exciting things happening at Sycamore High School this summer. And these are a couple of shots that were taken, I think, a week ago of the original earthwork. So some big trucks that are out there stirring up some dust, but it's part of what needs to happen to get the ground prep for the new Sycamore Stadium.
So thanks, Charlie. Yeah, thanks, Charlie. I want to add just a couple things to that high school scope. The visuals are just incredible. And any of you that have been able to maybe get into the high school and see some of those spaces are just completely impressed by the amount of work that's going on in there, but just the freshness it brings to those environments. One thing, though, I do want to call out, too, is because we talked about redevelopment of the commons area, the cafeteria. There's going to be a big amount of work occurring actually starting in May, and we're going to be sending out communication to our high school teams about that. We've got some kitchen work going, but really just creating a new environment, a new space in that cafeteria for our high school students for the start of the next school year. At one point, we talked about this summer, nearly 50% of the scope of the project is going to be happening. So the other thing I want to tell our community is it's going to be busy on our high school property between what we would say right now, April 1st, with the development of the exterior athletics, but all the way through the start of the school year. We're going to be doing some work on our campus parking, which the board has recently approved to help mitigate traffic flow concerns, the new front entrance. We're going to be working on the commons area with the kitchen. So there's just so much going on. It's really exciting, but these next 5 months are just going to be very busy and very critical at our high school campus. So we appreciate everybody's flexibility if you're over in that direction. The back end of the project is just going to be amazing. And it's just going to help flow and everything in that area. So we're appreciative of the team for making that happen. And I think, Chad, you're up now.
So we're happy to take any questions that you might have. Please use the chat function. And we'll monitor the chat and make sure that we answer any questions you might have. So please fire away if you have questions. And while we're waiting for questions, if there are any, a couple of things. We have been recording this session, so we'll make sure that the recording gets out onto our YouTube channel. The other thing is you heard Mr. Janigan mention that April 19th at noon, we will have another virtual lunch and learn, and it'll be strictly about our athletic facilities because that in and of itself has a lot of components to it. So we will be happy to address that at a separate time and give you more information. Hopefully at that time, there'll be a lot more than just dirt moving from the stadium at the high school, but the stadium is one component of a number of things that are happening with our athletic facilities. So
I see there's a question in the chat about being able to tour the green school when it's complete. Absolutely. We're going to be working with our community relations team to find opportunities to do open houses so our entire community can come in and be able to experience the investment. So great question. And we'll be putting out on social media through other channels when we start to line up those dates and times.
Mr. Lovell, it might be a it might be a good idea to, I think the residents around the junior high deserve a lot of credit too, is because they've had to tolerate a bus compound for about the last
Yes.
50 years. So
Yes.
I don't know if anyone noticed on that diagram, but there is no bus compound there anymore. So I don't know if you mentioned that or.
Yeah, we talked about that relocation to the temporary kind of spot, but I think it's worth calling again, Mr. Lewis, because you're right. Those residents that have backed up to that property have heard beeping from buses at 5:30 in the morning for many, many years. And so it's not only a win to be able to get those to more of an industrial area of the community, hopefully more centralized, but it's a win because it gives us an opportunity to kind of just decrease the amount of congestion overall on that site. And I think that that's a win for not only the folks that live around that school, but it's also a win for those that have to travel along Cooper in the front of the junior high as well. And so I know just recently it's been a win for everybody over there.
And that's, I think what's important about everything that we've done and all the planning and all the design that has gone into really the 4 different sites is that everything has been a significant improvement for not only the school district, but for the surrounding community. The upgrades, the updates, just the site circulation improvements, every time I go out to Symmes, I just think, how did we ever live without having separate car and bus traffic and having, a sizable enough parking lot to be able to park all of our visitors and guests. And, I remember what it was like going in and out of there with buses and cars mixing. So just being able to get in and out of there is a huge change comparative to what we dealt with previously. So
absolutely. I have another question that came into me, kind of question around the new bus compound. Where is it now and where's the permanent move going? So we are fortunate enough to be able to work with a developer who has allowed us to have a temporary lease on some property. It's right at the intersection of 275 and Reed Hartman Highway. It's the old, what we call P&G East property. So P&G West is now Ensemble Health. P&G East is a vacant building. You can kind of see we have a banner in front, but if you're looking at the property facing kind of east, we're on the north side of that property as a temporary compound. And just a shout out to our Board of Education, who has been phenomenal with helping us equip that site financially and just making that happen. Because again, that was critical to getting that off of that site. We do have a letter of intent with the same property owner to be able to relocate our property there. We're in the process of doing our due diligence on that site. We're hopeful that we'll be able to make a move to that location. And what's beautiful about that location, a few aspects, is number one, it's in an industrial commercial area, which I think is a win for everybody because there's not many folks in Montgomery and Blue Ash that would love buses in their backyard, which I completely understand. But the other win is that point is actually the most centrally located spot in the district. So from an long-term operational standpoint, it's a great place to have our buses. So we're just working through that process now. Obviously, we're trying to move as quickly as we can. However, as you all are very aware, if you are doing anything construction related or at least just buying things at the moment, we are working with supply chain stuff, just going through our due diligence, but also looking at how long the scope of the project and trying to keep costs down as best we can. So great question. We're working towards that as we speak.
Any other questions from the crowd? Well, we really appreciate you spending your lunchtime with us. We certainly would love to invite you back to April 19th at noon to come and catch up with us on athletic facilities and what's going on with those pieces of the projects. And certainly always an aviator, our fundraising campaign continues on. So please keep an eye out for updates from that. There are still some significant needs that need to be funded for our athletic facilities, in addition to all the things that have already been funded. So please keep an eye out for all of those things. But with that said, we again appreciate your time and hope you have a great afternoon. And please feel free to email us if you have any additional questions that didn't get answered during this session. Thank you and have a good day.